Today we have Michele Laine. She is a numerologist, intuitive strategist. She is a conscious channel. She's a podcast host. She helps you navigate your life, your path in your business, I guess, as well, your career, your everything, like your direction in life with clarity, with purpose, when everything is integrated together through the power of numbers. So welcome, Michele.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here and share this magical information. I mean, who doesn't love numbers, right?
Oh, and I was like so looking forward to this today because I'm thinking, oh my God, we can talk about this for hours. How are we going to fit this into one episode? Because there's just so much going on. So let's start by you explaining to the audience a little bit what is it that you actually do? Like, what is numerology, how you got into it, and what problem do you solve for your clients? Like, who are your clients? What do you actually do with that? So, because we know it's not a party trick, it's not just like this fun thing. You do a serious thing that actually changes people's lives. So, let's start there.
Yeah, well, I mean, in an essence, in a nutshell, I love helping visionary leaders, professional women, executives really come home to who they are, really know that, and empower themselves to those next levels of love, of success, of prosperity that they want. But a lot of times it's really the fulfillment. So I'm really helping them tune into the fulfillment beyond all the achievement. So numerology comes along. It was one of the main tools that I allowed myself to study just for me. So I had no idea I was going to be putting this into business, but I also had never seen myself so clearly, been so heard, been so understood. And actually that moment in life where I'm like, oh, I'm kind of a badass. Like I'm kind of like all these things that I forgot because sometimes life throws some hooks at you and you go through some ebbs and flows, good times and bad times. And I was coming out of that transition. And it just reminded me that not only do I have these beautiful gifts, but I can leverage the things that I think are the challenges and outcomes. And as I dove in, it really started to be this very amazing tool to really help people be seen and to see the direction where they might be feeling confused or overthinking or overwhelmed. We can really just get direct in what is going to be their very next step by how they're interpreting what's going on inside and how they can come home to themselves to trust those next steps, which is really empowering.
That is awesome. So, numerology helps somebody shortcut into the most highest timeline, I guess we can say, of what their direction is or the next step is. Now,
Yeah.
describe a little bit more in a practical sense, I guess. What is numerology in application? Like, most people think numerology is what, like maybe their today's date or a date of birth or the way their business was incorporated. Like, they kind of like think really simply about this, which I know that your thing is like way more complex. So how can that land in somebody's understanding so that they get, oh, that's what she means by it?
This is good. So this opened my world up to a conversation about energy. We're energetics. So we have a mind, body, and a spirit, but a lot of what we operate from are energetics, emotions being energetic and everything else. Well, if you love numbers, there's a reason you love numbers. There's something in the patterns of it that catches your eye, that maybe has a meaning, which is a great way for the numbers in their own consciousness to kind of be used as guidelines and helpers along the way. But what I really love about it is that they have a disempowering and an empowering energy between them. So like a one has an energy on either side, a two, a three, and so on. And we can use those as key codes to where we land in that spectrum. So if we're talking about the energy of the day, we're talking about our year energy or our ruling number or those aspects of ourselves. They're layers upon what's also available. So we can get through the minutia of the mind and just be honest with ourselves. Where are we now? Where do we want to be? And what's the higher next best choice for us? So when we start landing into our chart, we can actually see how the numbers are helping influence us into our most thriving, prosperous, and easeful life without the struggle. We're choosing the struggle because we don't know differently. And as transformational coaches and spiritual humans, we've been on this trek for a while. We're understanding the deepening of our soul's mission. We're understanding more about who we are than we knew before. And in essence, it comes down to a divine timing of universal law, how we move through a transformation in our awareness, our acceptance, our self-responsibility, and what we want to activate in momentum next. It all plays a role through the numerology, which is really beautiful.
Yeah, and it sounds like there's a purpose somewhere there, like the highest purpose, right? And
Mhm.
it's linked to like literal steps. Like
Yes.
how can numerology be practical? That's kind of what I'm trying to figure out from the standpoint of like the ones who are listening to this, they understand the higher concepts of everything you just named.
Yep.
But in application, what would that look like to their life,
How you've come,
especially like their business piece?
how you've come to express is your personality, what you've come to express in this lifetime. They come together, and you being more of you is your purpose, right? So then there's the nuances in between all of that, the definitions, the separation we create. Now we look at your business. What does your business come to express? How can you partner with your business? What is the highest and best outcome when it's coming to what we want to create in the world? Like it's endless with where we can go because it identifies patterns, the patterns in
Mhm.
our thinking, our feeling, our action, our non-action, how we relate, how we receive, which is a really big one, and how we hold ourselves accountable. So all these key codes are in there, and we can identify that within ourselves or even our business, what's being asked of us to expand in that thinking, in that, let's say, awareness instead of thinking. What can be created then? It
So
doesn't
what
tell us.
happens like if somebody is in a place of, let's say they are creating a launch, like they're going to do a webinar, they're creating a launch for it, and they stressed, they freaked out, they already picked a topic, they think it's a good topic, but maybe not as many people sign up as they wanted to, and now they want to utilize the power of numbers to help them see what needs to be maybe corrected in order to still have a successful launch. Could this be
Right.
applied in this way?
Absolutely, because the numbers are going to bring us back to what's going on in us to create
Mm-hmm.
those judgments to begin with. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can use numbers, obviously, dates to pick a time, a day and time that might be aligned with like an amplification number, a three or momentum, which is really great. But like many things that I want to be clear on, and there's no judgment with what we choose to love or follow, we can sometimes get so caught up in this is what we are, our Enneagram test, our human design, our different things. And we forget that it's a picture, it's a moment in time, and we get to experience that over and over as we grow. But what I love about the numbers, and I'm sure it's with everything else, it's our experience of who we embody and become along the way when we open ourselves up to all those influences. We're not just picking and choosing. So coming away from the thing that's outside of us and really looking at what's inside of us that's creating the disconnect, the nervousness, the failed launch, the different things. There are aspects of numerology that can help us understand, oh, this is that pattern I do to myself when I don't succeed, or when I do succeed and it's not good enough, right? It
Mm-hmm.
starts to bring in the depth, the truth, and the places in ourselves that we can trust, believe, and love just a little bit more. There's no getting, you can fool the world, but you can't fool the universe and universal law, right? So
Yeah. And I
it's
think this is like a very true component that so often we pigeonhole ourselves into whatever some test told us that we are this. And that's the part that I always remind my clients as well is that, like in human design, you're all the designs, but this specific one is the pattern you're living. And
yes,
the same thing goes for like any kind of a like Enneagram or any other system. Numerology, I'm sure, is the same as whatever it is that is repetitive. It's because there is a lesson in there and there is some power there to be extracted. Would you say
yes,
that?
yes. And so it really is about learning life, clearing our karma so we can land into that fullest dharmic expression, which is our purpose. And so I did the same thing. Oh my gosh, what's my purpose? Let me find it. Aisle three. Where do I find my purpose? Right. And it's really been who I become in my pursuit of wanting to be of service that much more. How do I want to express that? That's the at will portion that we seem to forget. We think it's some mystical, magical thing. Really, what happens when we clear the stress out and we're able to tune into our own development, our own actualization, we're moving aside all the things outside of us and we're really developing that inner connection with our higher self, God, source, universe, and we're building that trust. And it's how we want to express that, whether you're doing hairstyles in your business or you're on corporate America or like whatever that passion is, that's what you get to do. Who you're being in that and staying in alignment with your values and that higher connection, mind, body, spirit, when we're in that coherent alignment, that's who we become, where we're going, wow, I didn't think it could be that good. Like, oh my gosh. Otherwise, we're doing this like push and pull between, oh, my head wants to go this way, my heart wants to go this way. Which one's correct? The
Yeah.
coherence is when we know,
And in
right?
that coherence, there's also the body, right? The heart, the mind, the body, the higher
They're all
spiritual
connected.
aspect.
Yeah.
So
I don't know
when
about
that,
you. When I started, I wanted to just shut my mind down. It chattered so much and move it off, but it's part of the body. When we can love it, we can love the pattern, we can choose again. We don't need to
Mhm.
bypass it. We don't need to brush it under the rug. We just get to shine a light on it, walk through that transmutation, that shadow, and choose something else. And I think we forget we're always at choice. Even when life goes a little chaotic, we can still have a firm foundation in who we are. We can choose to find the gratitude. We can choose to find the peace. We can choose to find the harmony. And then we can also see where we can be more accepting of where we are without trying to like make sure we hurry up and get where we're supposed to be. We get to be back in that present moment right now.
so
So
if
I,
somebody is trying to be more grateful, let's say, in order to allow themselves to receive more, because they're already doing all the things and they're now working on receiving more, which is I know a lot of women in the audience are, would there be a specific number for that? Is this when they start to see like repeat of three numbers somewhere, like on a license plate in front of them in the car or something like that? And that
yeah.
somehow is like universe mirroring to them?
Well, and I think the numbers always present us an opportunity to expand. And so I would say the numbers you might be seeing in that case would be a lot of nines and ones. So when
Hmm.
we see series of ones, very popular, 1111, 111, 11s, all the 11s are showing up. They're inviting us to a deeper awakening. And we don't just have a one and done awakening. We know that, right? They're layers of discovery, layers of awakening. So something in the universe is arranging itself for us to step in to that next version of us. The nines, what's your relationship with nine? What's your relationship to more? I mean, my first thing I wanted to respond is, what is the relationship to more? And how do we receive? And does it feel safe in the body to receive more, to go up from six figures to seven figures, to allow ourselves to be the version of that? Something might want to be healed, looked at, or at least acknowledged so we can land into that bigger version. Right? The numbers will always help us. I start thinking about the Astro Egyptian numerology, the advanced numerology chart. We have our ruling number based off our birthday, and a moment we landed on this beautiful life path that looks like a deck of cards, 52 cards. Each of us has a representation of a card based off our birthday that helps us with that purposeful expression. And along with that comes a lot of planetary influences within the cards that are aligned 13 cards in a row from that position that help us with exactly what you're saying. So I would be looking at their chart and I would look at their literal receiving Jupiter energy and ask them with the cards that are there, what are the influences that are helping you overcome these patterns? How can you feel in your body where it gets stuck? What wants to move out to allow you to receive more? Because we can be good at receiving and then we can also hit a blind spot, right? We can get to that next level, hit a blind spot. Well, we get to look at what's revealing itself for you. Maybe you have a four of hearts, right? And a seven of hearts. So you're really being asked to set a foundation of what you love. Have we veered from what we love, doing all the expectations of everyone else? Are we in our should, need tos, or have tos? Are we allowing ourselves to really create that vision beyond, have that leap of faith, and trust ourselves in our vision? So that would be a way that I could utilize the numbers with specific to you and what's going on. There are, it's like decoding messages, decoding your own key codes to help you overcome and rise above those areas, which is really beautiful. So it's very individual and it's very unique. When we look at the actual numbers, again, they have their highs and lows and their invitations. You know, there's a progression. The ones are new ideas, innovations. The twos are connection, intuition, resources. The threes want to amplify, will either amplify stress or amplify creation, and so on and so forth. So it's such a beautiful dance.
Yeah, and a four would probably be foundation, grounding,
Yes, good
stability,
job.
right? Um,
Building, stable,
mhm.
stability. We can just go through them. Five would be freedom, play, adventure. Six wants to harmonize. So anything in coming up as lessons wants to be harmonized and loved. Seven invites us to a leap of faith and learning by doing, teaching, right? Teaching by example. And then the 8 wants to be momentum, masterful. The 9 wants us to come to a completion in the current cycle and open ourselves up to what's next without having to dictate what it is and how long it's going to take. So it's a
Yeah, I
graduation.
always thought of nine as a completion, and I feel always such a relief when I see nine. It's like, oh, thank God it's over. It's
Yeah,
like done, moving on.
and I think what's really fun, and this has at least been my experience and that of some of my colleagues, it's like, what numbers do you relate with? What numbers are the sticky ones? The sticky ones are here right now to help you see the higher side of it, right?
Mhm.
So the 2 and the 7 along my journey were ones that were really tough. And it was because the 2 was inviting me to connect with my intuition, to open
Mhm.
myself up to partner in life and myself, loving myself even more, trusting myself even more. The 7 wants to reveal the truth, be the trust, have a leap of faith in something beyond anything proven. And that has literally been my journey. And so I have a very big love relationship with those numbers because they were missing in my chart. Doesn't mean I'm lacking without it. It just means they're here to help me see, right? So it's just such a beautiful, expansive song and dance. There's really nothing it can't answer. And that's why it's so curious and beautiful. And so when we allow ourselves to look at it beyond that party trick, we get to the depth of you can't make this stuff up and you just saw my soul in a way that I haven't been willing to see it. So it's very
Wow.
helpful.
So where do you get the meaning for the numbers? Because like the meaning that you were giving kind of goes with similar meaning that I give it. Like I have my own structure as to what each number means. And I also have, for some reason, colors and tastes associated with numbers from like my early years. That to me, like it's just, well, it's obvious that number means that. Like 6 is goddess. It's this feminine sort of thing. 5 is a, human. It's the action and achievement, like it's being here. 7 is spirit. Like I kind of have my own thing, which is exactly what you said. And like, how is this? I mean, the same thing. So where do you think the meaning of these numbers comes from?
I think I really feel, and in my experience, what I've understand, it's an ancient wisdom, right?
Hmm.
Long before, thousands of years before we were here, there was through Egyptians, through the times and the ages, there was Sanskrit, there was history, there was all of this beautiful ancient wisdom kept. It was like the keepers of the numbers. And as time, this is a very Cliff Notes version, as time unfolded and the Romans came into power, we had a lot of this beautiful wisdom tucked away in the Library of Alexandria. And then, of course, that burns down. And so we've got people who want to keep that through the ages. And then also through the years and the decades and the centuries, we've had other people birth things from this original system, like astrology and tarot and ways that we could get the information out while still keeping it tucked away and preserved. Where do I think it comes from? I think there was a set standard for some numbers, and I think what's beautiful is it, at least for me and my witnessing of it, there's a consciousness of the numbers, and they really do invite this opening of intuition. So with what I share with you, it's from what we've shared and come into like the basics of what you can learn, and then there's the expansiveness of how you feel them. So the whole system that I've learned from my mentor is really intuitive. And how do we want to expand our experiences so we don't have to do this one and done reading? My reading and another person's reading on top of your human design, it really opens up different things for us to understand about ourselves at different levels of growth. And so
Yeah.
I don't know about you, I never get tired of hearing someone else's interpretation about things because we can't know all things within ourselves. We don't see our
And it
blind.
also gives you like a different angle. Like to me, from like my understanding of numbers, they come from sacred geometry, which comes from energetics. So to me, numbers were sort of secondary. The original part was how the universe was created with the geometric, like 1, then 2, then 3. And it's like,
Yes.
if you imagine the progression of the sacred geometry into more complex and more complex and more complex to like 166 and like so on to, thousands and thousands, 152,000 something. So it's like you get these different patterns, which is probably the same thing that you are looking at from like looking at somebody's chart is the same patterns, but it's the universal imprint, right? Within how that person, like which patterns they picked in this lifetime to play
What do
with.
I want to overcome in this lifetime to ascend? Yes. And who are my perfect parents and who are the perfect situations? And then the people are in our charts too, which is, I don't want to geek out too bad, but like you just get to where you're like, I can't make this stuff up. Like I did 3 readings today, 3 annual readings, and people were just like, how did you know? Oh my gosh, how did you know? Oh, that was when I did this. This was this. Like it was literally, they could tell me exactly the points of where they came to these huge decisions. And then they're wanting to know how the rest of the year plays out. And when you reveal what's showing up in that year, they're just like, oh, yeah, this is where I'm sticking myself. This is where I keep sabotaging. And so it's like, where in the body can we move that through? It's not just the numbers. It's where can we heal? Where can we be creating so what wants to rise up to heal is moved? And we're as humans, we'll be doing that forever. We live life, life. You know,
Mhm.
we get to evolve. It's never ending. And I think that's one of my favorite associations with it. It is patterns, it is geometry, it is all the depths of it. It's the language of the universe. And our relationship to our belief in that gets to be part of that unfolding along the way, right? Our
Speaking of the
accept.
relationship to that belief, which is really cool, but I think an application to like from the spiritual entrepreneurship and showing up and generating income by attracting clients and so on, visibility is always a sticking point for a lot of people. So, what would be the practical application to help somebody who, let's say, has their business like figured out enough, like their message is right, there's like they got the pieces, but now they the place of okay, I need to do presentations, I need to show up and speak with people, and all their shit comes up and suddenly they can't do any of it because it's just so scary and their body like goes into some past story. And we know that that happens a lot at every level, right? Like you can be totally awesome at six figures and then you going to multiple six figures and you're hitting that same visibility again.
Yeah,
That issue.
absolutely.
So,
I
what would be the answer from the way you work with that? Like, what could you say to somebody who's dealing with visibility, subconscious fears that are coming up, even though they're totally willing?
Well, I mean, there's a couple of things I would do. I would take a look at their chart from the simplest point of like how much of your influence is mental from your birth chart and how much is emotional and how much is physical. Where's the proving energy? Where are you hiding? Do you have a visibility? Like usually if you have a chart and an eight is out there and some influence, you may want to be visible, maybe not in this moment, but there's a desire. That's the gap. Like where can we help you get to the mastery of that, right? And
Mhm.
then in your chart, when I look at it specific, what's going on? What's going on in your year? What season are you in? What influence is here to help you rise through this? So those are some of the things that I utilize the tool for, but your context. So you're going to share with me what's going on. I'm going to look specifically at patterns that might be arising. You say yay or nay, but you're going to feel that in your body somewhere, and we're going to be able to move that through because it's where you don't think it is, right? Our body, especially visibility. I went through this. I get it. Like, I want to be here. I've got this vision. Let's go. And then my body's like, oh, nope. And then, okay, I'll just make a video. Nope. Right. And so it's the acceptance and the love of ourselves. It's always going to come down to a version of that. What are we hiding? Where do we feel like we're hiding? What's the old pattern that we thought we were hiding? Where can we open forgiveness? Where can we expand the appreciation and really step into that version of ourselves? Again, it comes back to self. It's not a magical thing to do. I can tell you to go make a bunch of videos and pick the one you like. You still got to be the one to execute, right?
Mhm.
You've got to stand on stage and deliver. And you're at choice point. But understanding where this is coming from and how you can move it through, especially when it's associated in the body, keywords being, I'm trying to figure this stuff out. If you find yourself saying that, it's not a figure outable thing, it's in the body. And that's where I utilize the rest of my expertise coming into somatic strategy and coming into energetic alignment and moving that through so you can really rise into that next expression. And then what does that feel like for you? What does that mean to you? How do you want to express that? And then the truth is, where are you? And sometimes we don't always want to see that part. I don't care how far we are in anything, right? Or we don't want to admit that we need the help. And so all your audience knows the value of support, of investing in self. And in those moments, are we open to what we don't know so we can experience that part of ourselves and maybe not have to know how it all unfolds, but be with ourselves in the transformation of the journey?
Yeah, and I find a lot of times the knowing is not mental. Like when people say, I know, they tend to think they need to know mentally, where
Yeah.
at least for me, a lot of knowing is more like I open my mouth and something happens and then I know. But it's almost like it's after my brain catches up to what I
Yeah.
already know
So
in my head.
and that's, we were talking a little bit before we started about integration. You know, we can gather all the information and we can literally know. but we're still not taking the action. There's
Mhm.
something that prevents us from moving into that at the level to which we will feel satisfied. And a lot of times it's just letting that integrate, being with the nurturing of the body, the slowing down. We don't want to slow down, we want it now, right? And the nuance in between. And so looking at someone's chart, I can actually see what's going on, the overall picture, and I can layer it between their life path, their year, their week, what's actually going on, and then what they're sharing. And so it's this beautiful, to me, it's like this melding pot. And I didn't even realize early on like how I felt that. I feel the patterns in someone's body. So my intuition helps me pinpoint what is it going on with you and help you get to that clarity. I don't need to tell you what it is or what to do. I just need to follow you like the tail end of a comet. You're the
Mhm.
comet,
Mhm.
right? So you can eventually see it, feel it. I'll hold the vision while you catch up. We as coaches, we love that, but we don't think sometimes that we actually need that support as well. It's still a blind spot, it's still a roadblock, and we're going to meet our ceilings. It's having the grace through them. This is just one of the tools where we're scratching our head going, I really don't know what it is. Maybe we can look at it just a little differently and come in with a different angle. And that's the thing that sparks the aha moments to help you move through.
Awesome. It's like everything you just said is so much like what so many people struggle with. And this
I might have lived a
connected,
little.
yeah, connected the dots for them. Yeah. So what would you say is like the most common thing that people come to you to work on?
Yeah, I have a lot of women who there's two sides. There's I've made the money, I'm looking for fulfillment, but they're looking in the wrong places just
Mhm.
from habit, right? And then I've got those who have a lot of achievements, but they're not feeling like they're in their soul's purpose. So it's kind of the same conversation. It's like, where are we overthinking, overwhelming ourselves in that pattern? And where can we come into the certainty of what it feels like to redefine some of these places that we've been living off of old definitions or maybe our parents' definitions? Like, it still does go back a little bit, right? Some idea or decision of the past that's now changed because we have a brighter vision. We're
Mhm.
usually operating off the old pattern, definition, story, however we want to identify it, when it's time to write a new one. And so that next level comes with the rewrite and the belief and the connection to the clarity and focus it's going to take to get to that next level. And so it's that sweet spot of just, I have the money, I've got the achievement, I'm at work, I'm doing all the things. I want to be in love. I want to be fulfilled. I don't, it's like the mundane every day going on.
Mhm.
How can I feel that? Or I know I'm meant for more and I'm cycling in these same areas and I have kids and I have life and I love that. And then they're beating themselves up because they feel like they have to sacrifice one for the other, love or money, health for money, love for family, like whatever it is. And it's really the conversation of and so that requires a definition, a repatterning, a reprogramming, whatever it is, but what we can't currently see. And that's going to take what it takes, right? I don't have any prejudged notion of like it's a one and done, but I do know when we move the energy, when we have that instant shift, it does take new patterns, behaviors, um, values sometimes to realign with new values that we've grown into, to be consistent, to take the decision and move in the commitment energy and then being all in, not just toe dipping. And I don't know about you guys, but I thought I was all in sometimes and I'm still testing the water going, ah,
Yeah, until
right?
you realize the depths is like much more than whatever you thought it was.
Yes. And that's human. We're humaning and we're here to human. We're here to be amazing spiritual beings in the metaphysical space. And we're here to be in the practical wisdom of I live in this body and this is life and this is how I human. And I get to have both, right? So without having to override either one is usually where I help them through.
Oh, this is awesome and this is needed and this is clear as to where people might be having their own sticky point as to, oh, there's a way to look at this process from a different perspective, not just the traditional sort of mindset type of cleanup or go into your emotional cleanup, but it's a different way of applying the patterns with the numbers, which is really, really interesting. So
Thank
this is Conscious Coaches on the Mission. So what would you say is your mission in
Oh,
life?
I love that. Well, so I was writing it down. No, just kidding. I started this business as this passion project to empower women, and now it's becoming this global movement. It's becoming this global vision of really helping people step into that fulfillment from being further in their power, not power over, but just in their sovereignty. And really understanding what that's like in a world that tells us to do all the things. And so I've got next level retreats and masterminds and things I never thought that would be so potent. But when we come together, we can really rip the band-aids off and the masks and be real. And that's where so much of the magic happens because we allow ourselves to really experience ourselves differently. So everything I do and will do continuing into this global vision is create ways to reach the masses with massive experiences of self,
Oh,
right? So
who
beautiful.
needed in the world, and human collective right now just had an echo
Right?
going
It's like,
through it,
yes,
like,
raise conscious
bring it
awareness and
on.
emotional aware being, but here's where I can really help. And so, it's been a beautiful ride and I can go back and I'm excited. I don't always know the bigger vision, but I'm just letting myself be guided and doing the best I can to listen. And it's taken all of the things I've just shared with you for me to come back to the truth, not the busyness, right? Not the achievement, but just the depth. And so that's me.
Oh, this is good. So how can people find out more about you, and you have free gift for them that they can experience some of this a little bit and kind of start the journey? So talk a little bit about that.
I love it. Okay, well, I have a website, www.michelelaine.com, and I know you're going to put that in the show notes. And anywhere on that website, you'll find beautiful ways to have free experiences. But the one that I want to provide for your audience is this beautiful resource toolkit. So you get a sample of whatever you want. You can choose all or choose one or two. But some of the things that are in there are these beautiful experiences of your own personality codes. So you get to download this PDF, figure out your ruling number, go through what's walked through here to see your superpowers and see your challenges and just get a little taste, right? Like this is not the big picture, it's a little taste. And then you can go take it with your spouse, your significant other, your friend, your kids, and kind of start seeing, oh, maybe this is why we're butting heads here or where I can create more ease. It's very fun. It was very enlightening to me as a mom to be able to go, I'm thinking my kids need to do exactly like I've done, and they are born to do it way differently. I just get to guide them, right? It was huge for that, which is so good. So I'll give you the link for that. That'll be in the show notes as well. So other than that, I'm on social media. I spend a lot of time on Facebook, and I'm starting to spend more time on Instagram, and of course my podcast. And so all those links and different venues to find out more about me are inside that toolkit, which is really good.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Michelle, for being here and sharing your wisdom. And yes, check out all her links in the show notes. You will find a lot of really interesting nuggets, I'm sure, in there. And thank you again for being here.
Oh, thank you. And I'm very excited for your listeners to hear you on my podcast as well, because I just was remembering like we're doing the things. And so they get double dose of you, which is wonderful. And yeah, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.